To speak to the bill, the chair recognizes Minority Floor Leader Radhi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I want to take this opportunity to address you and you, Mr. Speaker, because today, this week, has been very emotional for me in considering that we may take up this vote. I want to remind you what we are voting on today. After decades in this state of saying it does not matter what your income is, it does not matter who you are, when you get in an auto accident and you have to go to that hospital and that ER, you're covered. You're covered. Michigan was the only state in the country to guarantee that. But why is that so bad? Why is it bad to say to our neighbors, you're covered? So what we are doing today, we're standing on the doorstep, we're standing on the cliff, we're standing at the end of the road for a system that has stood up for our neighbors and our residents and our friends and our family members for decades. And we are saying goodbye. And so what I would like to do today, just briefly, is deliver a little bit of a eulogy, because I see the writing on the wall. I see where the votes are going, and it stabs me to my very core. And some people say it's not politically expedient for me to take this position. Some people say I'm falling on a sword for this vote, but my heart's already bleeding. I have no room left. I am facing the end of a system that has stood for our residents, that has stood for our people, that has stood for all Michigan residents. I am facing that, and I can't be silent on a day when we are ripping apart that system. I urge you to think about the pedestrian walking down the street who is struck by a driver. Think of an auto accident that you may have been in. I know that I've been rear-ended before. I know that I've hit ice before. We have a very snowy state. Think of that time, the moments in which you are in that accident, the crunch of the metal, and maybe of the bone in your leg or your spine or your skull, the blood flowing down your leg, the pain that you may not even feel in the moment because the adrenaline is rushing. Think of those people who will no longer have the care that they need to walk or to live or to have a productive life. When you're capping their benefits at $250,000, Mr. Speaker, you are sentencing them to death. That is unacceptable in a state that eliminated the death penalty over 100 years ago. We cannot do that. We owe the citizens of Michigan more than a death sentence. And it is very unfortunate that we have come to this place where we are here today to say goodbye to a system that once said, you're covered, and now says, you're on your own. Mr. Speaker, I urge a no vote for all of those in this state that we may never meet, those low-income families that struggle to pay the bills as is. And we're saying now you can go on a $50,000 plan. Well, that may not get you in the door of the hospital. And by the time you've paid your copays and deductibles, you may not have a dime left. You may have had to sell off all your assets, mortgage everything that you have just to stay alive. And in the end, it might not be enough. I will not stand silently by when my state is being driven into a state of moral dispassion. It is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker, that we are at this moment right now where we are casting aside our fellow residents to the cold, to the wind, and to the elements. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will end my eulogy and ask my colleagues to join me in voting no on this Senate Bill 1. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. The clerk will open the board. Members, the board will be closing. Please vote at your desk. Clerk will close the board. Representative Jones votes aye. Clerk will tally, display, and announce the vote.
Mr. Speaker, on the question of final passage of Senate Bill 1, there are 94 aye votes and 15 nay votes.
A majority